The Westminster government is sending away our brave young men and women to intensive war situations, much more often than ever before. We expect everything of the armed forces, and in return, frequently, when they come back to civilian life, they get nothing. Here in Llandudno, until very recently, we had a specialist clinic. This clinic was dealing with ex-service people, typically suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome and other conditions as a result of their service. The man who ran the clinic, Dr. David Allen Jones, a very senior psychiatrist, asked me to lobby government to ask them for direct funding for these ex-service people. I went to health and I went to defence. In both cases, great sympathy, but no real answers. Unfortunately, that clinic is now closed.
Up to a couple of years ago, I suppose you know, we had the big home in Craigside, which they decided to close. They couldn't afford.
That's Tŷ Gwyn?
Tŷ Gwyn, yeah. And we used to welcome them in the Legion Club here, and they were made temporary members, and I was astounded when they done away with it.
Mfanwy Davies, you're from Llanelli, and there are lots of ex-service people in the Llanelli area, aren't there? Can you tell us about your experience?
Well, the move away back to civilian life can be very difficult for some service people. They have to deal, for example, with new issues like dealing with accommodation costs and utility bills. And for some service people, they have to think about applying for benefits for the first time. They really do need services that are adaptable and responsive and that respond to their needs.
Chris O'Neill, you're an ex-serviceman yourself. Tell us about your experience.
I originally signed up for 22 years, but served 5. So at the beginning of that, my life was mapped out. There was no need to look for a future or what would be happening later in life. That was my mindset at the time. Then I found myself in conflict with the world around me when I became a civilian. As I said, I had no goals in life, didn't really know anything about Civilian Street. A lot of money was spent training the members of our armed forces. And I actually believe that money should be spent on reintegrating them into society.
At the moment, we do not treat ex-service people with the respect they deserve. About 10% of the prison population is drawn from ex-service people, and that's an awful figure. Of course, it's underestimated by government and not much is being done. But I'm pleased that since I've raised this with the Prime Minister and others, it has become and will become an election issue. This campaign needs to be won, and it needs to be won urgently, because anything short of that is a breach of the military covenant.